Tonight, residents return home after a bushfire threat.
A woman behind bars accused of killing a pedestrian.
David Crisafulli's new cabinet sworn in.
And the women at the forefront of funding for Indigenous rangers.
This is 7 News with Joanne, Desmond and Nathan Spurling.
Good evening, thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Mount Garnet residents have begun returning home after they were ordered to evacuate as a major bushfire threatened their community last night. The Tablelands Mayor says the region's dry conditions were a recipe for disaster.
Flames ripped through the dry bushland in minutes.
It's a tinderbox up there.
Mount Garnet residents were told to leave their homes immediately yesterday afternoon as emergency crews battled the fierce blaze.
The fire basically burnt the southern side of the Kennedy Highway as you come into Mount Garnet there.
The local school was evacuated and some residents lost power.
The school was evacuated just to make sure that the kids were safe, that they weren't actually put in harm's way.
Fire crews finally contained the flames by 10 p.m.
The great work of the Queensland Fire Department through aerial bombers and having their resources on the ground, we were able to mitigate the damage to the town.
As dawn broke, the true scale of the damage was revealed, with more than 450 hectares burned.
We did lose some water line, we did lose some polypipe, pastures were lost. People who had cattle would have had to relocate cattle or bring feed in.
Thankfully, no lives or properties were lost. But the Tablelands Mayor says the scare is a reminder for locals to be vigilant this fire season.
So it is certainly a place that we've got to be really careful if we're lighting fires, any time from August onwards. It's really dangerous.
Investigations are now underway into how the blaze started. Frank Russo, 7 News.
A 36-year-old Yungaburra woman has been charged after a man was killed by a car on the Tablelands yesterday afternoon. Police allege the woman was driving a white MG sedan along Gillies Range Road when it left the road and struck the pedestrian just after 1 o'clock. The 76-year-old Yungaburra man died at the scene. The driver has been charged with dangerous operation of a vehicle causing death. She faced the Atherton Magistrates Court today and was remanded in custody until November 11.
A Cairns woman has been arrested, allegedly trying to board a plane with more than $100,000 of illicit cash. She was intercepted trying to fly to Sydney with thousands of notes taped to her body. Christina Puljak was in court.
41-year-old Kimberly Daly was charged with an array of offences, including possessing property suspected of being tainted. She was arrested by the Australian Federal Police on September 15 before boarding her flight to Sydney at Cairns Airport. AFP officers allege Daly had thousands of $50 and $100 notes in bundles taped to her body underneath her dress. She was also charged with possessing dangerous drugs. It's unknown whether she's accused of carrying them in her bags or also on her body. Daly did not front Cairns Magistrates Court today when her matter was mentioned and remains on bail. She's facing a maximum penalty of 2 years in prison and a $16,000 fine. AFP Detective Superintendent Melissa Northam says the large amounts of cash made for a suspicious sign of alleged criminal activity. Kimberly Daly's case was adjourned to December 20.
Thanks very much for that, Christina. The Premier unveiled his new cabinet today with more than half of his ministry made up of regional MPs. And while all former shadow ministers remain in the mix, some will step into new roles.
David Crisafulli spent 4 years working for this moment.
I, David Frank Crisafulli, do sincerely promise and swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III.
From the Deputy Premier to the Minister for Transport, regional Queensland is well represented in the state's new government.
I promised Queenslanders a fresh start, and this is the team to deliver it. It will be the team that takes forward the opportunities that Queenslanders need.
Jared Blay, David Janetsky, Deb Frecklington, Dale Last, Anne Lay, Fiona Simpson, Amanda Cam, Brent Mickelberg, Dan Purdy, Tony Perrott and Andrew Powell, all rewarded after gruelling years in opposition.
For our term in opposition, you saw 20 faces, and they will be the 20 faces that lead the government in this term of office.
Despite promising before the election each new minister would keep their previous shadow portfolio, changes have been made.
Ros has been promoted to one of the most senior roles in this government, and her focus on finance and trade will show the world that Queensland is open for business again.
I've gone through 3 health ministers who made health even worse, so it's a passionate area for me, but this is a fresh start for me into the future.
Meaning she won't be held accountable if Queensland Health doesn't reach the LNP's promised improvements. Parliament will sit for the first time on November 26. Christian Penny, 7 News.
KAP leader Robbie Katter has thrown his support behind an online proposal to combine North Queensland with the Northern Territory to create a new state called Northern Australia. He says it would bring the power back to the north.
There's a new proposal to redraw the state lines.
I understand North Queenslanders feel like they're a bit removed from the southeast and the southern states.
An unofficial map has circulated online combining North Queensland with its neighbours in the Northern Territory.
No, keep it to Queensland.
Bit random, I think.
Similar issues, however, I think it's easier to control if we just stay single.
KAP leader Robbie Katter says it could be an opportunity to free the north.
It would make a lot of sense to combine with other northern cousins to get more adequately represented and representation that's fit for purpose.
It's not the first time Robbie Katter has supported the separation of North Queensland. In May this year, he put forward a motion to Parliament to split the state in 2.
Maybe we can do things differently in Australia. Those lines drawn on a map 165 years ago, perhaps they're not meant to be there indefinitely forever and ever and ever.
It's just a sense of frustration. There's a large disparity between what's spent in the southeast corner and up here. We're still looking in this Bruce Highways flogged, the Flinders Highways flogged.
Shana Macbeth, 7 News.
The federal government has announced a $355 million investment to expand the Indigenous Rangers program. First Nations women will be at the forefront of the funding boost, with more than 700 jobs set aside, including projects in regional Queensland.
1,000 additional rangers will be employed to protect our land and sea over the next 4 years.
These are programs that really deliver good economic outcomes, good community outcomes and good outcomes for the environment.
$86 million has been committed for 35 new Indigenous Ranger groups in Queensland, employing hundreds of First Nation women.
We're aiming to employ 770 female First Nations Rangers and to see them become an increased part of this program.
It's a collaborative effort that we work together as a team, unified as Wutiti people, and it's another great milestone and achievement.
Recipient Wutiti Aboriginal Corporation says it's a stepping stone to traditional owner-led management in the northern Great Barrier Reef.
Us managing our country like our elders before us, the authors of our own destiny.
The Great Barrier Reef is a big, amazing, beautiful place, and it takes many people to manage it, and particularly people that intimately know the country that they're working on.
Bethany Ross, 7 News.
And ahead tonight, a Queensland trial to help smokers give up.
And a young grazier's 400k bike ride to help beat a terrible cancer.
Cairns turns to 7 News to keep up to date on local issues, and we want you to be a part of it. If there's something happening in your street, your suburb, we want to know about it. Send us a message or drop us an email.
And thanks for joining us here on 7. The state's biggest thrift sale is back for the final time this year. St Vincent de Paul stores across Queensland will be 50% off until tomorrow night. The proceeds will go towards supporting essential services, housing and feeding people in need. Vinnie's volunteers say more than 9 million second-hand items were sold last financial year.
Well, anyone who's tried to give up smoking knows how difficult it can be, even with a packet now costing up to $80. Queensland researchers are hoping to change that, offering nicotine replacement products if smokers sign up for a new trial.
The day Terry Byrne quit smoking was the day she was diagnosed with lung cancer in 2007. The on and off smoker of 20 years carries regret every single day about a decision she made in her teens.
So I've only got less than a quarter of a lung on one side. It scares me what I leave behind.
Fewer than 10% of Australians smoke daily. but it remains the country's leading cause of preventable death and disease.
Lung cancer screening can reduce mortality by 21%. Combining that with smoking cessation can almost double that mortality benefit.
A new study by the University of Queensland hopes to find ways to increase screening and quitting, calling for 1,000 Queensland smokers aged 50 to 80 to take part.
The only cost to the participant is getting to and from the CT scanner.
The scan itself will be free and can detect lung cancer before the silent and secret killer takes hold.
Like, you don't have to wait on a waiting list to go and get it done.
If we can pick up something early, we can cure you. And at the same time, we can help you quit smoking. So this is a double win.
Nicotine patches, gums and lozenges will also be provided. Queenslanders who register with Quitline can join the trial to send their habit up in smoke. Connor Alforque, 7 News.
A young Queensland grazier has persuaded her friends to join her on a 400-kilometre bike ride over 4 days. Their efforts raised awareness for pancreatic cancer, which has some of the lowest 5-year survival rates in the country.
From Taroom to Toowoomba, Emily Waters and 5 others hit the road for a cause dear to their hearts.
And then we had 7 support crew people that just helped us, mostly family.
400 kilometres worth of sweat and fun.
I couldn't run because I was injured last year, and then come up with the idea to cycle somewhere.
The group raised more than $27,000 for Pankind, its mission to triple the pancreatic cancer survival rate by 2030, a cancer Emily knows all too well.
Well, my mother passed away from pancreatic cancer in December 2018, and it's quite a deadly cancer.
And a sneaky one. Symptoms of the disease can often be mistaken for conditions such as gallbladder problems, reflux and muscular pain.
I hadn't heard of anyone that had had it when my mother was diagnosed, and like a lot of the symptoms can be just a lot of different things like back pain.
Pankind data shows survival rates for pancreatic cancer in rural and regional areas about 6%, 50% less compared to the city. The ride finished where Emily's mother spent her final days in hospital.
It was a overwhelming but also very exciting feeling riding into St Andrews.
Josh Van Staden, 7 News.
Yeah, very special ride. Well done, Emily, and all of her crew as well.
Every kilometre was worth it, Joe.
All right, let's see what's happening in sport. And the Cowboys released their new jersey.
Yeah, Joe, it's to commemorate their 30th anniversary, and one of their young guns is hoping to spend plenty of time in it next year. And Happy Hernandez, the 5-wicket haul that led the Hurricanes to a Barrier Reef Big Bash title.
Stream 7 News anywhere, anytime, live and on demand on 7plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.
And welcome back for all of tonight's sport. The North Queensland Cowboys have launched their special 30th anniversary jersey, which is a throwback to the club's early days. And 19-year-old Jackson Purdue is pushing to wear it on a regular basis in 2025 after his rapid rise to the NRL this year.
This time a year ago, Jackson Purdue was graduating from school. Now he's hoping to graduate to the Cowboys' best 17 with a strong pre-season.
Didn't think I would, play an NRL game this year, and very grateful for that. And the opportunity came and took it with both hands. And you're coming up against people at training that it's out of you or him.
The teenager took out North Queensland's top rookie award for 2024. 8 appearances across numerous positions, potentially putting him in contention to fill a utility role.
I got through in that centre on my debut and really enjoyed it, and then played a bit of fullback as well, which I enjoyed. Versatility really helps, and hopefully that helps me in the long run.
If someone comes out in the pre-season and blitzes, well, they deserve to be in that spot.
Jake Clifford spent most of his Cowboys career trying to prove he's a superior 7 to others at the club. Ending last season as the incumbent halfback has him pumped for training to begin later this month.
Toddy just, filled me with a lot of confidence, and just the playing group as well.
In their 30th anniversary kit, the Cowboys will be hoping to celebrate a decade since their inaugural premiership with another.
It'd be unreal. I think all the boys know that they want to go just a bit further than we did this year.
Nathan Ferguson, 7 News.
And Jackson and Jake will be watching a number of their teammates in action this weekend. With one spot left in the Pacific Championship final, Griffin Neames New Zealand know they're in for a huge test with Jason Taumalolo's Tonga.
Australia is waiting for the winner of Tonga and New Zealand, and both nations' respective Kangaroos clashes earlier in the tournament have them more ready for tomorrow night.
They're going to be a lot better for the game that they had a couple of weeks ago, like we will. So, it's going to be a tough battle.
The Kiwis haven't leaned on Cowboy Griffin Neem's inside knowledge on club teammate Jason Taumalolo. In fact, they haven't spent much time focusing on any key Tonga players.
They play against these players every week, so they know them inside out as individuals. So it's probably more about us getting our cohesion on the field right.
Fijian cowboy Semi Valemei scored 2 tries against the Cook Islands last weekend, and another North Queensland winger could follow suit Sunday. Robert Derby's PNG Kummels are expected to rack up a big score at home, especially after their own strong recent win over Fiji.
There was areas where we were still got a bit laxer in and around that ruck that we want to be a bit more consistent with that, but also naturally spending more time together, we're going to get sharp with the ball as well, a bit more connection and understanding of what we're trying to do.
Nathan Ferguson, 7 News.
The Southside Comets will have a familiar face holding the clipboard in 2025. Star midfielder Dylan Suarez is taking over as a player coach. The Comets made a history-making run to the quarterfinals of the Queensland Kappa Cup this year. Meanwhile, Chris O'Hare has re-signed with the Marlin Coast. The champion coach won a treble in his first year in charge of the Rangers. And the Hurricanes have been crowned this year's Women's Barrier Reef Big Bash T20 champions. The Thunder had a bat first in last night's grand final and made a solid start, but eventually would only set 105 for victory after a superstar bowling performance from Hernez Garcha.
Hernez Garcha, the destroyer. She will be on a hat-trick now.
And while she didn't get the wicket, Hernez did finish with a 5-wicket haul in a superstar performance. The Hurricanes then chased down the total in the 18th over and with 8 wickets in hand. Brisbane Heat might be calling after a bowling effort like that, Jo.
Yeah, might be.
Yeah, that's it for our sport. Thank you.
Right, thanks for that, Nath. After the break, Livio joins us with all the weekend weather details, and Darren has our beach report as well.
G'day, Livio Regano with tonight's weather. November kicks off with a typical dose of late dry season weather. Very warm again across North Queensland today, with nothing more than 1 or 2 small blobs of inland rain to temper the warmth. A southeasterly change on Sunday night may take some of the sting out of the heat. In Cairns today, our top temp was 29 degrees, which is actually cooler than yesterday. Mareeba, though, hit a high of 33 and Cooktown got to 30. To the satellite loop, well, it was a sort of a repeat of yesterday, with thunderstorms forming this afternoon over a line across central Queensland in through the southeast, but they were more isolated this time. However, those that occurred were quite nasty, with warnings current, one through the Brisbane metro area, another one coming sort of not far from Gympie Noosa towards Rainbow Beach. Warnings are still current, so keep an eye on for those. And lots of high cloud streaming across northern Queensland, but not very productive, except the inland tropics is beginning storms. So today's chart, the inland trough is in a much more favourable position than yesterday to produce these storms. It's further east, and all east of that trough is under the influence of the very warm northwest to northeasterly wind, a quite humid wind as well. On tomorrow's chart, the southern section of that trough breaks off, starts moving up the coast in the form of a southeasterly change. So it's going to cool down over the southern half of Queensland, staying warm in the north. On the outlook chart, that southeasterly change finally reaches the tropics, maybe dropping the temperature by a degree if we're lucky. Now the latest from BOM. The boating forecast for Cairns waters, easterly winds 10 to 15 knots tomorrow, and then 15 to 20 knots for both Sunday and Monday from the southeast. The new moon spring tides are upon us, so it's a time of dramatic ocean movement with really high peaks and equally exaggerated periods of low water. North tropical coast and tablelands, the chance of a storm in the south. Cairns 22 to 32 degrees, Atherton 29, Innisfail 30 and Mareeba 32. And looking ahead for Cairns, the weather up here gets pretty set in its ways. Even a 2-degree change would make world news on a boring day. Expect 7 days of temps in the low 30s and basically no rain. For Atherton, considering elevation, it's fairly warm, but it's high 20s now, so that's quite comfortable, and bottoms around 16, 17. Tonight's photo from Moreton Island came with a question. Why was the storm moving against the wind? My answer, most thunderstorms are over 10 kilometres high and tend to get steered by high altitude winds, which can be very different from winds at the surface. Thank you, Jack and Vern from Aruna. Hope that answers your question. Catch you Monday. Now it's over to Darren with the Beach Report.
Hi, I'm Darren Everard from Surf Lifesaving Queensland with this weekend's beach report for your region. It will be mostly sunny over the weekend with a high tide mid-morning, making it a great time to enjoy the first days of summer at the beach. As stinger season is just about with us, it's time to find your stinger suits for the trip to the beach. Swim between the flags at patrol beaches and where possible, stay in the swimming enclosures. If you're heading to the beach at Port Douglas, it'll be the pick of the beaches with over 150 club captains and CTOs on the beach for a conference. You'll be very well looked after. Remember, only swim between the red and yellow flags at a patrol beach.
Great, thanks for that, Darren. And that's all from us for this Friday. Have a fantastic weekend.
And a reminder, if you'd like to see anything from our news again, you can catch it on 7plus or download the 7 News app. Like Joe said, have a fantastic weekend and we'll catch you back on Monday night.
Good night.